God sent his own people and told them to rape people before.
I know. He says it's going to happen too in Zechariah. Okay, so is it justice to have wives raped for the crimes of their husband?
I don't know. Even if that's true, that doesn't mean that God isn't real.
It means this guy isn't real.
You
Does
could
God
go into the courtroom.
does God make the rules?
Yeah,
So that's
he
his
made everything.
decision. He could decide to let imperfect people live in heaven. He could decide
Right, and he chose
just
and he chose not to.
he can decide just to forgive people. He doesn't have to send anyone to hell.
You're right, he doesn't, and he doesn't want to. That's why he
No,
sent
he
Jesus.
does want to. That's why he does it. If he didn't want to, he wouldn't. You've created a false dichotomy. You're saying God has to send people to hell. He doesn't have to send a single person to hell. He could create
Yes,
another.
he does. Because
He can create another planet with no hell, and just say, okay, all these people who don't believe in me, when you die, you can go to this planet, do your own thing, and I'll leave you alone. You leave me alone. He doesn't do that. He sends you to hellfire, which is
that's
an
and that's
unnecessary
exactly
step.
that's exactly what hell is. Hell is the absence of God. That's all
No.
the hell is the absence of God.
Oh, find me that Bible
It is
verse.
it is it is it is eternal torment. Yes,
Find me
it's
the
eternal
verse where it
torment
says
because
hell is
there's
just the absence of God.
the outer darkness
I'll
and
give you a
Jesus
hint.
Christ is the light.
That's not in the Bible. That's a quote from C.S. Lewis.
So, okay, well, C.S. Lewis is pretty good at it. But here's the thing that you're not understanding. If God himself says that he is a just and true God,
But he's not.
is there how so?
Why would he be? Do you think that everything God has ever done is then by definition just?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that, for example, if I commit a sin, that my significant other should be punished for it?
No, God doesn't do that.
Okay.
However, there are consequences to your actions.
Let's read 2 Samuel chapter 12. Do you have your Bible on you still?
Hmm.
Go to 2 Samuel chapter 12 and start in verse 11. This is the punishment that was handed out, part of it, for what happened with Bathsheba. He says, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight. And it happens in chapter 16. Absalom storms the palace, trying to take the throne from King David, and in a display of force from his advisor Ahithophel, takes 10 of David's wives and sleeps with them on top of the palace.
Who says they were raped?
Do you think they consented to sleeping with their child? Do you know the punishment for sleeping with or for committing adultery in Deuteronomy 22?
Yeah, the wages of sin are death.
That's not what it says in Deuteronomy 22. The wages for adultery is getting stoned. So do you think that they
Yeah,
chose
which is death.
do you think they consented during a coup? Their own son was running a coup against their husband, and you think they said, well, let's willingly just sleep in front of all Israel in broad daylight with my own child?
Where does it say that
That's
it
some
was the mother having sex with her son?
that's some victim blaming bullshit right there. First First Samuel or Second Samuel 16. Ahithophel advises during the coup, he advises Absalom to go and take 10 of David's wives that he left behind and sleep with them in front of all of Israel so that they'll know he's now in charge. And you never guess what happened to the wives afterward. They weren't killed because they were raped. They didn't commit adultery.
Yeah, I'm still hanging up on where it was the wives having sex with their kid.
Absalom is the child of David.
Yeah, I see that.
So every wife
Just
of
found it.
David is then the stepmother at a minimum of Absalom, which is a violation of Levitical law. Levitical law says that you do not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife, for it is your father's nakedness.
So, within the context of attempting to understand the culture back then and how different that is than now, setting that aside, who's to say that the Lord, in his sovereignty, could not allow certain things to happen
Wait,
that he does not allow
are you
us to do?
suggesting that having the wives raped for David's sin was a good thing?
No,
Okay, so it was a bad
it's
thing.
not. Well, I'm also still not seeing the part where it says that they were raped.
Oh, so they consented.
It doesn't say either or.
Okay, so somebody storms the palace trying to steal the throne from the rightful king and takes 10 women and sleeps with them as a display of force publicly on top of the palace. Do you think they consented?
Okay, yeah, no, I'll give you that one. All right, what else you got?
At a minimum, you would have to assume that God compelled them to commit adultery, which is still a problem, but they did not consent.
Well, it's also not the first time that God had women raped
I agree. He says in
in the
Isaiah
Bible.
chapter 13 it's going to happen. He says the same thing in Jeremiah chapter 8. He says it's going to happen. It gets described happening in Lamentations. He says a bunch of times. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's not
he
justice,
actually
is it?
he sent people to he sent his God sent his own people and told them to rape people before.
I know. He says it's going to happen too in Zechariah. Okay, so is it justice to have wives raped for the crimes of their husband?
I don't know.
Well, according to your theology, it must be justice or else God couldn't do it.
Then yeah,
So you think it
because
so it would be
so
acceptable then to enact that justice today in America then?
I don't know.
You don't know. We heard it here, guys. This is good Christian morals. I'm glad that as an atheist, I can lean on you guys for morals. So, do you think that it's a good thing, for example, to stone women that don't bleed on their wedding night?
No.
Okay, I'm going to read you a passage
That's
from
that's my that's my assumptions here.
right. Let's do Deuteronomy 22, verse 13. Suppose a man marries a woman, but after going into her, dislikes her and makes up charges against her, slandering her by.
Exactly, right there. Makes up charges against her. Makes up charges against her.
I don't think
I
this
think
is.
the God
I don't think this is a gotcha. You think it is? Maybe you should hear the whole passage.
I think it kind of is because he's saying that suppose he goes into her and doesn't like her and then makes up a charge and says, "Oh, well, I'm making up the fact that she wasn't a virgin because she didn't bleed."
The more you.
I think that us people, I think you and I can agree that we know that virgin women do not always bleed.
Yep, and you've just proved my point for me. You want to keep reading it with me?
Go for it, my friend.
The father of the
Let's
young
read it
woman
together.
The father of the young woman and her mother shall then submit the evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders at the city gate. The father of the young woman shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter in marriage to this man, but he dislikes her. And now he's made up charges against her, saying, I did not find evidence of your daughter's virginity, but here is the evidence of my daughter's virginity. Then the elders shall spread out the cloth. I'm sorry. Then they shall spread out the cloth before the elders of the town, and the elders of that town shall take the man and punish him. So he gets punished if he's lying about the cloth. It says in verse 20, though, if, however, the charge is true, that evidence of the young woman's virginity was not found, then they will bring the young woman out to the entrance of her father's house, and the men of her town shall stone her to death because she committed a disgraceful act in Israel by prostituting herself in her father's house. So you must purge the evil from your midst. According to this law, if I go into a woman and she doesn't bleed on that sheet, is it permissible to take her to the elders and say, "There's no blood. I want her stoned"?
I don't know.
It's a tough one, huh?
I don't know. I do not have an answer that I think would suffice for you.
Right. The real answer is this was a book written by dudes in the Bronze Age, or actually, this was the early Iron Age, and they were putting words in the mouth of God. This book is not from God. This book is from a bunch of old dudes that pretended that God was talking to them.
Even if that's true, that doesn't mean that God isn't real.
It means this guy isn't real.
All right, what else you got?